why we need test automation for any kind of a store, or any kind of a requirement. Let me put it, let me put it this way, like if you get a requirements in a business requirement document, and when you have a high level design of your project and you wanted to develop, and be an example, you're playing a role of a scrum master, and in terms of a development of this a complete project, let me give one more example. My opinion, okay, Microsoft. Okay, let me open it. So, and there is this project where you wanted to build a pen. Let us take it with a simple example, and we can deep dive into what comes. um, so now you have a business requirement saying that you need to build a pen. Okay, now this is a high level requirement. When we drill down to it, why I'm explaining, because when we drill down, you will know the importance of testing in a project. And when we talk about a project, we need to define a process. When we talk about process, we'll be dealing with multiple business process models, and then we'll see where testing aligns with this business process model. So that is the reason why I'm drilling down and explaining, even though you guys are aware of this BRS documents, high level design and low level design, I'm just giving a quick intro for it. So when we drill down to a low level design, we'll be having lot many questions. So when we say pen, what kind of a pen? Is it a ball point or ink or semi semi colored ink? Semi colored in the sense you have two refilled inks. It might be multiple combination of colors. Okay, and now uh, one pen with one color, or one pen with multicolors. So this way, you can have multicolors in a single pen, or you want one color for individual color for individual pen for individual colors. And the third question you might ask is, what are the dimensions? What are the dimensions of the pen? Length, breadth, width, and the holding, the holding. The circumference of a pen, and all those things. So, and when we say when we go deep into this ballpoint, what would be the ballpoint dimensions? It is a 0.5 or 0.1 or a 0.2. These kind of questions. These are the things when we deep dive into low level design. These are the questions which we have. Now, based on this low level design, Scrum Master or the PO and the PO, no sorry, and the PO will define stories, right? And based on these stories, developer will develop it. Okay, will develop it. And we can't really in any industry, based on the development, you can't really trust the product. So you need to have a testing mechanism around it, where you need to test it, in a different environments, in the sense different in this example, you will be testing it on different textures, like on wall, paper, pad, cardboard, and all these things. So now the real now comes the tester role, where he or she will be testing it, and will be defining the quality of the product. So if the quality is 100% good, it means that, or it gives a sense that your development has been successful. If the quality is low, obviously it is a failed product. So this is what it was happening earlier before Agile. So when we were doing, when we were participating in a waterfall model, until and unless the development part has been done, we are really not sure what kind of a product or what kind of a product are the developers are developing. 100% we are really not sure. And the only kind of a document which we have in testers, I mean, when I say we, the testers has this low level design document. Based on this, we will be writing test cases, and we'll be just waiting for the development to be complete, and then we will be testing it. So that is before waterfall, I mean, that is before Agile. Okay. And when agile came into picture, okay, now the trend has moved and Agile came into picture, and everybody in our team has become a stakeholders, as you guys are aware of it. So when we say stakeholder, each and every member has a part of success as part of a failure. They are part of everything when we call it as a product. Okay. So now when we say Agile and everybody is a stakeholder, what the testers are doing in sprint, what exactly they are doing. So are they doing only testing part, or are they doing any other additional activities? What exactly they are doing in Agile? So in Agile you have lot many process again, like we call Scrum, we call Kanban, we call XP programming, and we call there is one more spiral XP programming in Agile, right? So as of now, since Scrum has been seen the most successful rate, Scrum took it pace into the Agile market, and everybody are now following Scrum. So now the biggest question is what is tester role in Agile Scrum? So this would be the biggest question. So what exactly he'll be doing it? And yeah, I'll deal with test automation next. So let me answer this question. So previously we used to have a business requirement, this low level design, and Scrum Master and PO will be defining stories. Now the trend, what they do is, even though you guys are aware of it, I'm just throwing some light over here. So we will be having a story discussion session where you will be where everybody is an participant over here, including the technical development manager as well. They'll participate it, and even testers are also included. They will define the story points. So how are the story points defined? Do you guys think it's a random number, or it's a development effort including a testing effort? How these guys are defining it, and how do they come up with numbers called 1, 3, 5, 8? So I mean, you guys might be having these questions. So when it comes to Agile Scrum, tester has that feasibility or flexibility to include himself in terms of the development of a product. When I say development, it includes testing plus automation. Okay. There are many companies in the market, which they are not willing to do in sprint automation. There are many companies, I don't want to take the names. There are a lot of companies which they are not willing to do in sprint automations. So we'll talk about in sprint automation in coming slides. Before moving that, so what is why they are not doing in sprint automation, and why they are considering with the low velocity points? So they consider that there is a reason behind it. So they consider that the development story, whichever they are doing it, and they are not they are since they are overestimating the points or the velocity of the candidates, and tester is overburdened with the multiple number of stories, and you will be having a decrease in the velocity, since a tester has a maximum velocity to deal with at the end of the sprint, because we can't really expect the developers to complete all his story by by 8th or ninth day of the sprint. As you guys know, there will be a lot many, I mean there we'll be seeing a lot many surprises at the end of the sprint, saying that this development hasn't been completed, and they'll be pushing it code at the last minute, saying that development has been done, only testing is pending, and all these things. So in order to avoid these last minute surprises and everything, testers should testers will be taking a active participant in agile scrum meetings, like sprint planning meeting, story discussion, story grooming meetings, and then the daily stand-ups as well. So these are the primary meetings where testers will be taking a higher part of a role in defining what can be completed and what cannot be completed, and what are the risk factors that we have. And this in this the testers role also should be, why I'm stressing about only the testers is, the next coming slides will be on test automation. So that is the reason I'm just giving the importance of this testing methodologies and Scrum. Okay. So uh, when we uh, when we say about when in the sprint planning sessions or sprint grooming sessions, when we talk about story points and all these things, tester will be giving an in a perspective that he will be doing both manual plus automation. Okay. If if now the MNCs, I don't know how many people are familiar with the small chunk groups, like 3 developers and 1 tester. They call it a Scrum group. Like that, you will be having a multiple teams for a single product. Uh, have you guys come across these kind of teams? Okay. There are other companies which follow the traditional Scrum, where you will be having, let us say for example, 1:2 ratio. It means that for every 2 developers, you will be having 1 tester. This is a traditional Scrum calculation. But now there is a different trend where you will be having multiple chunk teams. For 3 developers, you will have 1 tester, or 4 developers, you will have a 1 tester, where he or she will be doing the manual testing part of it, not considering the in sprint automation. Okay. So if we are not considering in sprint automation, what is the main deal? What is the big deal? So we are testing it manually, and when we are making sure that the product is working fine. Yes, agreed. So that is with respect to the sprint. So he or she will be validating 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 stories in that particular sprint. And when we have a release kind of a thing, where we have worked for certain 3 months or 4 months, and when there is an MVP release, MVP is nothing but minimum viable product release. And there, if we wanted to do a regression kind of a thing at on that particular product, we can't really spend or 10 to 15 days for doing a regression testing, right? So that is where test automation coming to picture. And when we are evaluating this points in PI planning meeting, that is nothing but product insight planning meeting, the team scrum master, product owner, and the stakeholders are or should be involved in these meetings, where you will be having a major stake in order to define what kind of features that we are going to deal with. That we are going to deal in this quarter, or in this quarter, or in this defined state of a project. So in these meetings, what is the role of scrum master? Now we have this defined about testing automation and all these things. And as a scrum masters, you need to be in a confusion, like what exactly I'm doing over here, when tester is doing a major part of it, and tester is discussing about his role and his points and his automation suite and everything. What is the role of what exactly scrum master should be aware of these things over here? So the scrum master should be aligned with both the developers, testers, and PO. PO is nothing but the product owner. aligned with this three, and he need to define what would be the velocity for each and every sprint. When we consider an in-sprint automation, how would the velocity changes? If we are not considering the in-sprint automation, how the velocity changes? What are the risk factors that we can conclude before planning a sprint? And what are the mitigation plans that we have if we have large number of velocity plans? Should we add any resource to it, or should we remove any of the stories? What would be the velocity points that we consider on each and every resource within these 10 days? All these questions should be answered by the scrum master. So that is the reason when we define any project insight meeting, Scrum Master would be considering these points in order to define the velocity chart of this complete project. Okay, now we'll deal with let us deep dive into this. What exactly a test automation is and why it is really needed. I'll give a pass over here. If you guys have any questions before diving into it, I just want to clear them out. Any questions so far? Okay. Okay, silence is golden then. I'll take it. No questions. Okay.
Yeah, Ashok
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, sure.
In Scrum, we talk about like only we have developer, product owner, and Scrum Master. So, like in a project, how these testers will be handling in the Scrum, like, and which team other specifically work with one project, or like they are being kept for multiple projects. How this team will be involved during the testing?
Okay. That's a very good question. So you mean to say, okay. So if let us say, for example, for this pen project, when we are defining a team, so initially it will be PO, TDM, and Scrum Master. These are the three peoples. These are the three personas who will have the complete idea of what they are gonna do and how what they're gonna do in the sense this BRS document. Even they don't have this low level design. When these guys sit together and they discuss about what is the budget, so these are the primary concerns: budget, time period. A time period is nothing but release date, and the rest. Okay, these are the primary three factors which these three personas will be considering it, and then they will define a team. So let us say, for example, if for building a pen you have 3 months of time. Okay, 3 months of time is nothing but 100 days or 90 days. Sorry, it will be less than that, 20, 60 days. So 3 months of time, and how they come up with number of number of personas for each and every team. Like when they define it, we will be seeing like three developers and one testers. How do they come up with this number? So for this, what they will be doing it, there is a calculation. I'll just give a brief intro. I don't want to go into that math. So taking this time period, when it say 3 months, it will be 20 days per month. 20 days into 3 equal to 60 days. 60 days into, sorry, into 8 hours, right? 480 hours per resource. Okay, so in this 480 hours, if I calculate the capacity, there is another calculation for calculating the capacity of a resource, how many story points that he can deliver in this. They will drill down to that number. Say they will drill down to these numbers, in order to define a team. Okay, when they define a team, as I earlier told you, in an legacy agile, you will be having 1:2 ratio. It means that one tester for two developers. Okay, this is a legacy model and a success model for any kind of a project. Now, this will be good if you have around 12 members team, 12 members, or 10 about 10 members team. This will be more successful. About 10 members team. 10 members in the sense you will be having around 6 developers and 3 to 4 testers. Okay, when it comes to a small chunk numbers like 3 developers and 1 tester, and these testers, as I said, will they be aligned to a single project or multiple projects? They will not take part in multiple projects. They will be sticking into one single project and they will be spending their 8 hours. So in a business service models, it will be an under carpet work which they will be not showcasing to the clients, but your calculation will be for only one project and your capacity will be calculated for that project itself, not for multiple projects. Okay, if if the client, there might be situations as scrum masters you might be seeing, there might be situations where uh, POs or TDMs might be asking, I don't want full participation of a tester, where he can, I want only 4 hours of his time and I'll be billing his only for 4 hours. So at that particular instance of time, you can share your testers, but that is once in a blue moon scenario. We really don't see those kind of scenarios. Okay. Okay.
So yes,
Yeah.
so once we have the project is going on, first sprint is going on, multiple sprints have been going on. So they require to go for a regression testing. So at that time, the testers are required, or like during the unit testing, the developers will do the unit testing for the first sprint. So initially, the testers will involve in this, or like they will be starting involving after during the regression testing.
Okay, this is a good question, and I don't want to answer it right here, Ashok. I'll deal with in the slides. So in the slides, it will be more clear for you. If I
Sure.
just please hold on for a couple of minutes, I'll try to explain you. There is a strategy behind it, and how testers should be involved, and how Scrum Master should monitor these things. I'll try to explain those concepts as well.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Good. Good. So yeah. So now Ashok has raised three questions. So will tester should tester need to be involved in unit testing, or should tester take part of regression testing, and all these questions. So first question would be, is it really needed? Automation is really needed in this agile scrum world? If that's the question, yes, obviously. When see for how to put it this way, yeah, okay, let's take this statement: quality comes not from the inspection but from the improvement of the production process. I don't know how many you guys agree with this point. I definitely agree with this point, because let us say, for example, there is a product where you are building up, where you are trying to build up or develop a robot, where the business requirement is the robot should lift his or her hand. Okay, the robot should lift his hand. Okay, right? So the product has been done, and all the product original scrum masters, testers, everybody has tested it, and you see that a robot is lifting the hand. Does that really solve your problem? That is the product that you are gonna build it, obviously, right? So you're gonna build a robot where it should lift the hand, but there is a testing, there is a process, there is a quality that you need to test it, where you need to check how it should lift a hand, whether it should lift frontward, backward, sideward, So there are multiple ways where it can lift a hand. That hasn't been defined. How that can be defined? So how far or how depth that we can go in terms of defining the quality and to deliver a quality product. Hope I haven't confused you guys, right? Are you clear on this? So okay, let me rephrase it. So when the statement says quality comes not from the inspection, inspection is something about just verifying it. Verifying in the sense, you will, let's say for example, uh, you it's an visual impact. It's an visual verification. You see that the robot has been built and it is just lifting the hand. You doesn't care about whether it lifts frontward, backward, or sideward. You doesn't care about it, but it should lift a hand. But when we say, but from improvement of the production process is nothing but going to the low level design, drilling down into stories, defining a test case, and defining a test case, defining a test strategy for that product, and validating those test cases whichever you have written. These are the production processes. So when you go into the depth of each and every process, you will have multiple questions that need to be answered. Like for example, when I'm building a robot, what is the height of the robot? What is the width of his hand? How should it lift? Whether it should lift frontward, backward, or sideward? These kind of questions should be answered, and then you will be validating these points, each and every point. Okay, there is a robot of 5 meters height and hand of 2 meters. Okay, it should lift sidewards. Yes, it is lifting sidewards. That is the quality of the product in Agile that we are looking as a tester, as a stakeholder of that particular project. Okay, that is the detailed description of this statement. Is it clear? Okay,
Yes.
fine. Oh, thank you. So that is where process come into picture. So now when we go in, and these are a couple of statements by experts saying about how quality can impact uh, our process, and how process can be included or integrated in terms of product development, or or product development or process management stuff. Okay, now in order to define the quality standards, or the quality mechanisms that should be integrated into our process, we have multiple methodologies. uh, the most common methodology which we use is test driven development. So what is test driven development, and why a tester is needed in test driven development, how it is implemented? So everybody, I mean, I know most of you guys should know about should be using this terminology: test driven development, behavior driven development, and acceptance test driven development. And there is one more term called domain driven development, which is triple D, uh, which is in process yet, which is not yet officially included in the agile process, which may be included. Okay, now let's stick to test driven development. So what exactly is a test driven development? So everybody knows that test driven development, you will write a test first, and then you'll do a and you'll make the test pass by writing your see you'll write test first, validate the test, it fails, and now you make the test green. You will be writing minimum piece of code that you make the test case pass. And then you after test case pass, you'll improve the test case with respect to the story which you have given, and you will refactor it, and this cycle goes on, right? This is test driven now, and everybody is aware of it. So now what is the big deal with this? What exactly we are doing over here, and why it is needed? Do we really need to follow test driven development? And what is the scrum master's role in test driven development? Any answers? So we are talking about test driven development, and this is all about development, right? So what exactly Scrum Master is doing about all this thing? Why should Scrum Master should be aware of this test driven development? Okay, so why? Because
Yes,
I'll tell you. Yeah, sure.
you are asking about this test-driven development was been done by the developers or the
Yeah,
testers.
so yes, exactly. So TTD will be doing by testers or the developer, basically the technical team when you're dealing. So, but why Scrum Master should know about all these things? What is the Scrum
Because
Master's role?
so by the
Yeah.
end of the release, he is responsible to provide a minimal viable product to the stakeholders. So he has the
Okay.
responsibility like what are the how the product is working on for each and every sprint release. So he
Okay.
will identify and he will calculate the velocity and capacity of the stories, like what is the team capacity.
Okay. For that, I don't need to follow this TDD, right? So I can write a simple development, and the tester will test it, and then I can give a minimum viable product. So why Scrum Master should monitor this test-driven development? What is the big deal in dealing with? So I'll go with the
Scrum
legacy
Master
process.
should facilitate between the developers and the testers.
Yeah, even then, if you want to do that, testers can take 5 days, and the development can take 5 days, and they can test it. And in general terminology, to be very honest with you guys, testers will be testing 5 stories in the last day of the sprint. But for each and every story, testers will be considering 2 points. 2 points is nothing but 16 hours of his time. But he can validate a story within 2 hours.
If we have more number of test cases, like for example, we have 50 test
Hmm.
cases in the first sprint, it has been completed. In the second sprint, it comes again 60 test cases to be complete. And again, along with the second sprint, it has to be complete first sprint also. So totally, it will take 110 test cases. So if we go on keeping up to next sprint, it will like 360 or 500 test cases has to be completed.
Okay, that is when it comes to a regression kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So for regression, we have a different set of scenario in Agile. So you will be having two environments in regression. So one you will be having the development environment, and for regression you will be doing in a QA environment, where you will be having a separate set of teams where they will be doing performance, UAT testing, and all this kind of a testing, right? So okay, I'll explain you what is the role of Scrum Master when we are dealing with a test driven process. So these are yes, I agree with you. Scrum Master should consider the risk factors and the story velocity points and stuff. At the same time, Scrum Master should be aware of the code quality, what kind of quality that we are delivering to the MVP product. So the quality of code. So doing there are two statements: doing the thing right and doing the right thing. So when we do the thing right, that is nothing but the test driven development. Because when you write a piece of code, how effectively you are using your code. So are you guys are you guys heard this tool called Sonar Cube is a tool where you can where it will gives you the code complexity of your code that has been written. So it says the reusable code or these kind of metrics what the developers has written. Okay, so uh, this based on this there are multiple tools, but Sonar Cube is one of the most prominent tool. And Scrum Masters and testers should have a keen eye on this code complexity. A code complexity is nothing but the code coverage. So when we say code coverage, so the number of methods which the developers has written, are these methods are tested with their code. It might be unit testing, okay, it might be mock testing, or it might be integration testing, whether this piece of code is tested perfectly or not. How do you get that metrics? By you having a mentor on your peer process. So when we use this GitHub or GitLab or this source control management tools, you will have a peer review where your tech team lead or technical lead will review his code. But having this visual review will, where we can misuse couple of times, where they won't get no sufficient time to review the code and they'll just merge the code into this master branch. By integrating this kind of tools like Sonar Cube, and you have this 45, and you have multiple tools. There are multiple tools, but these are most prominent tools. So by using these tools in integration, you will have a metrics. Let me quickly show if I can get an image. Oh, Sonar Cube images. Okay, good. I have one image. Okay. Uh, Hope you guys can see my screen, right? Uh, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So here, these are the metrics. These are the metrics, that Sonar Cube can provide. Like, what is the vulnerability of the code that developer has written, and what are the methods that hasn't. Here, the pic is not that clear. I'm really sorry. I don't have any kind of image which shows a perfect match for it. So this gives a complete overview of. Oh my God. One second, guys. Let me go to that site if I can get some pictures. So this Sonar Cube gives you the complete. Where is this? Where is this? Okay, if I can show it here. Yeah. Okay. Now I have a sample image. Okay. Okay. So I told you, right? So when we merge it, and you'll have a pipeline, and this pipeline is integrated with this Sonar Cube, and this Sonar Cubes gives some metrics of your code. When I say metrics of your code is nothing but how many methods have been written, and how many test cases they have covered, and what is the are they using their code? Do they have any vulnerabilities? Vulnerabilities are the critical code coverages that need to be refactored. So these kind of metrics, this Sonar Cube will be providing. So why we need these metrics in TDD? When why we need this Sonar Cube when we define a process in Agile, and how we can reduce this. So now, in order to consider all these factors, this test driven development uh, helps us to define a test first for any kind of a story or any implementation, and then you will be doing a development. As the process itself says, you will write the test first and the development next, and for each and every requirement you will be testing it first and then writing the code. So it eliminates the less code coverage of your code, and the flexibility to refactor it, and the maintenance factor is pretty much less compared to the uh, traditional development process. Traditional development, when I say traditional development process, first they will write the code and then they will write the test cases. So that's the traditional development process. That is also effective, but there are there is a high probability of missing the code coverages, and there won't be any efficient reusable code when we follow the traditional development process. This process will be increasing the code coverage. It can streamline the code base, and it is very easy to maintain. And when we say cleaner inter, I'll explain this cleaner interfaces. This is more of a technical term. And maintainability, extensibility. When I say maintainability, is nothing but reusable code. We there won't be any duplicate code in our code base, and we can modify, and when we can modify that reusable methods in terms of using multiple loops concepts. So, and coming to this cleaner interfaces, so cleaner interfaces is nothing but the integration class that we mainly use for the developments. So when we say cleaner interfaces, how far we can use this interface in terms of defining this abstract methods and stuff. So that's more of a bit technical. As Scrum Masters, make cleaner interfaces are nothing but you have a well-defined integration classes in your code base. Simple as that. So this is about TTD, and what is the role of Scrum Master in TTD. So when we define a story, you will be having an agile story in Jira, right? So when okay, let me take this. I think I will explain here. So when we define this story agile, so uh, uh, story. So you will be having an acceptance criteria, right? So in this acceptance criteria, uh, uh, are you guys following a traditional paragraph flow, or in your company, are you guys following a traditional paragraph flow, or a Gherkin format acceptance criteria, which is the flow that you guys are following? So when I say traditional, okay, okay. So yeah. Mm. Okay. When we take that traditional flow, there is a much difficult there is a much involvement for the Scrum Master, and the product and product manager as well. When we do sign off to the stories. Okay. But in many companies, we follow GWT format. That is nothing but this is called as uh, given when then format, in defining a acceptance criteria. Okay. So what is the advantage of traditional flow, and what are the advantages of this latest given when then format is traditional flow? It will be a detailed explanation of your requirement, and it will be a bullet points for your verification. Okay. But that is also very descriptive. I'm not saying that it will be a single line statement. If the acceptance criteria is a single line statement, it is the responsibility of the Scrum Master that it should be very descriptive, and when it should be very making sure that it should be very elaborative, and it should go into a very detailed manner. So that is the role of Scrum Master, that he need to look into it if acceptance criteria is a single line statement. Okay. And coming to this given when then, so this given when then format, it segregates each and every requirement into a test case. Okay. Let us say, for example, I have a requirement. I The story is something, uh, uh, as a writer, I'm taking the requirement for building a pen itself. As a writer, I should be able to write with the pen on a paper. So this is a story, obviously, right? So for this acceptance criteria, what I can write, given a pen, when I write when I write on a white paper, then I should be able to, sorry, ah, then I should be able to see my sentence. Okay. This is one acceptance criteria, and this is one requirement. And the other requirement is when I write on a color paper. This is the second requirement, right? This is the latest GWT format. So the same acceptance criteria can be written in a traditional format, saying that as a writer, I should be able to see my sentence and bullet points. For first point will be uh, test it on a white paper, test it on a color paper. So now, if you observe this, you can clearly see what exactly what is the main difference when we write in this format. So this is a test case, and a tester or a developer should satisfy this need, right? So for this the tester will be writing a method, and then will be writing a test case, and then he'll be writing this method implementation, and then he'll be refactoring it, and then that's how the process goes, and that's how this TTD will be implemented. In this TTD itself, we have multiple processes. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this pair programming concept and shift left testing concept. Are you guys familiar with these things? This is, I think this is okay. Okay. I'll explain you why what is a pair programming concept. First we'll go to shift left. So shift left. This is most common terminology in Agile process. The shift left testing process. What are the advantages and how it can be improved and all those things. So shift left is nothing but it is increasing. This is it is increasing the scope of tester in terms of development process. So first you will have design, development, and then testing, and then release, right? This is a traditional thing, right? So now what is the shift left testing is doing? So this testing process, we are shifting towards left. We are shifting towards left in order to achieve. So most of you guys might be seeing this 100% automation in all the companies blogs or definitions of QA process. They'll be saying that we will be achieving this 100% automation. So this 100% automation can be achieved by this shift left process. And coming to how in the sense, I'll show you in a second. So and there is this is too much of terminologies. Just try to remember all those things. So there is a strategy called test pyramid strategy. Okay, this by using this test pyramid strategy, this 100% automation can be achieved. 100% can automation also include this shift left process, where it increases the testing scope. Coming to what exactly a test pyramid process is. Test pyramid processes, it's a bottom to top approach. We are not coming from top to bottom. The legacy is top to bottom approach, but this test pyramid strategy is bottom to top approach. So this bottom layer, whichever you are seeing it, I just need a linear if you guys have any questions, just please stop me. This is too much of information. I completely agree. But if you guys have any questions, just you can stop me, you can pause me, and you can ask your questions. Okay. So this the last bottom you are seeing. is nothing but I don't know, I can write text here. Okay, or else I'll do one thing. This thing we can get it from Google. Sorry to copy paste it from Google. Okay, I don't want to waste time in drawing it. Okay, this is the thing. Let me save this image. Okay, I'll delete it. Okay, let me try this. So this is the thing. So in this test pyramid, this bottom, this bottom which you are seeing is about, it deals with about unit testing. So unit testing, and this is 70%. 70% of your test case will be done in unit testing, and 20% will be done in integration testing, and only 10% will be your end-to-end test cases. This is a test pyramid strategy. You don't need to be more involved on it. We are just dealing with the shift left process. When we say this test pyramid, that's where you achieve this 100% automation. And now, what is the role of tester in this test pyramid? That is our main question which we have. So what this tester will be doing it? Tester will write, when I say pair programming, I'll try to explain as much as I can. In pair programming, you have two personas. One person is called a driver, and the other person is called navigator. Okay. At the initial, when you get a story on the day one, tester will be a driver. It means that he will be writing test cases. Okay. And developer will be navigator. He will be reviewing all the test cases. Okay, they will sit side by side, and they will have two screens, and they'll be watching on the each screens whatever they are writing. And to show you that image as well, just to get an overview, pair pair programming setup images. Okay. So this is how it looks like. I don't know how many of you guys have seen it. This is okay. Let me do this. Okay, this is clear, I guess. So this is how it looks like. So you will have two monitors. Tester and developer will be sitting side by side, and tester will be writing test cases, and developer will be monitoring it. Okay. And after that, developer will become driver. Here he will be writing unit test cases. Okay, followed by TDD process, and tester will be navigator. Okay. uh, he will make sure every test case has been covered. Okay. So this is this is pair programming concept. I'm just giving an overview of it. So this is how you will be doing it. So now you might be getting a question like, whether the developer will be writing the automation test suite as well. No, no. So here the primary, when I say the first and on the day one, when the tester is writing the test cases, tester will define how many test cases can be done in unit testing. He should be very much familiar with the segregation process. When I say segregation process, let us say for example, he has written 10 test cases. Okay, he should be able to define. He should be able to define like uh, how many can be tested in unit testing and integration testing and end-to-end testing. So this segregation is done on day one by these two personas, by these two persons. Okay, and then based on the segregations, developer will be writing test unit test cases followed by TDD process. Okay, and now you can clearly observe it. Here the tester is involving in defining the unit test case, and he'll monitor the unit test case whether it has been covered or not. When I say when a tester is involving in the unit test case, it means that tester is involved in the development process. So the testing is starting in the development process itself. We are not waiting till the development is done. So that is where we are moving the testers to shift left strategy, that he will be involving at the core development process, so that at the end of MVP release or the minimum viable product release, it has a quality product where it has been tested in each and every phase. Okay, uh, that is about shift left. Are you guys clear on this? I know I have confused you guys, but I just want to make sure whether you guys are clear on this shift left and 100% automation, pair programming concepts, and all those things. Uh,
Sir, in
TDD,
real time,
yeah.
sorry.
Go
In
ahead.
real time, are we following the same shift left process and all, sir?
Now, from last 4 years, we are following the shift left process. Not all the companies follow this test pyramid strategy. I'm very honest on this. Not every company is following. Only uh, I can name the companies which follow this, like Amazon, Google, and HSBC, and Dell. Uh, Only Six Sigma levels and CMM level 5 companies are following this process. Not all the companies are following, but it will be the next trend. It will be the next big thing. You will be seeing it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. On this development process, as a Scrum Masters, you need to have a keen eye on what is the percentage that these guys have covered on each story. So definitely you guys will be having an integrated GitLab or SCM tool into your Jira tools or Rally tools. So you need to have an eye on this code coverage metrics as well. So that is the role of Scrum Master. That is the reason why Scrum Master should be aware of this TTD process. Okay. Any other questions? These are the advantages of, as I explained you, these are the advantages that we can have from the TTD process. Okay. How many of you? I mean, these are the beautiful words by an expert called Bob Martin. As from coming from a technical background, we call him as Uncle Bob. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar. He's the one who has written this, clean code architecture, and how to write a clean code, how to define a method, and now what are the process that we need to follow in terms of defining a method name, and how to comment it, how to make that code level. Let me show him. This is just for your information. You don't need to Uncle Bob. We call him as Uncle Bob, and he's the one. He called as his name is Robert Martin. We call him as Uncle Bob. He is the one who defined, this clean code practices and solid principles in order to write all this. This method names, commenting, and all the stuff. When he started using this TTD, he came to know the efficiency of TTD when we follow this and when we try to implement it. What is initial stage? It is difficult and it needs discipline for the developers to adapt to it. But when going on, you can see the fruits of it, and the ripe fruit will be so sweet when you follow this TTD process. Okay, these are some of the codes which he stated, and this is just for your information and nothing much about that. Yeah. So see, uh, these are the why I've mentioned this slide is, if you ask your developer in your team saying that if you ask a question pointing to him saying that, hey, whether your code is clean or right, the answer would be yes, my code is clean, and I've used all the used reusable methods, and I've defined everything in the perfect manner, or everything in I've followed the process. The answer will be something like saying that yes, I followed the process and my code is clean. And if you are a bit technical and if you dig into that code, you can see the real mess what he has done if they are not following the process. It doesn't mean that all the developers will write the mess code, but there are few developers who will be messing up with the code. Okay, when we have a peer review process in the sense when we try to interrogate his code, you will be seeing the real mess, what exactly he has followed, and what he hasn't followed, what are the solid principles that he hasn't followed, and how to integrate his code and all those things. So that that confidence level to a developer, making sure that my code is clean. When a developer should If a developer should get a statement something like this, it is always the major it is always uh, uh, the the role of Scrum Master should include or integrate these processes, like not only test driven development, like multiple enhanced process that you can come up with to the team, to the stakeholders, saying that this should be followed in our story development. So as a role of Scrum Masters, you need to make sure that each and every individual are aligned to this process and they should see the fruits of it. Okay. So even when I started initially writing a code, even I am pretty much confident that my code is clean. But when there is a review on my code, I'll come to know the real errors or the real mistakes whatever I have done. So when if I followed if I would have followed the process at the initial stage itself, I can clearly or I can confidently say that my code is clean and I have followed all the solid principles and I have followed the test driven development. I can give a continuous statements of my code how I have written. So that is that statement should be can be achieved for each and every developer or for each and every tester by the Scrum Master if he is making sure that his team is aligned to the process that has been defined. Okay. Yeah, just now I've defined. So why everybody can't do this TTD, right? So since it is an easy process, why can't everybody can do this TTD? So there are certain limitations. Is first thing is it is very disciplined. It is very disciplined, and if you are following a TTD, it is a mandatory and a ground rule that you need to write your test first. You need to have a different test case, and you need to follow it. And the learning curve for this TTD process is pretty high, and also it includes much higher or a better human power, where you need to have a 1:2 ratio legacy segregation of a developer and testers. And the next biggest toughest challenge to follow TTD is in banking domain. It is very hard to follow this TTD process because they'll be having this legacy code where you'll have thousands and thousands of lines of code that you can't really mess up with. So in generic IT world, for legacy projects, we are not allowed to follow test driven process. So that is where this microservices came into picture, and now we are trying to modify or enhance that legacy code to microservices by followed by this test driven process or XYZ process, which we call it as XP programming. Uh, I don't know how many of you have involved in this XP programming or Kanban projects. These are development oriented projects, so these are nothing but this legacy enhancement projects. Most of the XP and Kanban projects are legacy enhanced projects, so they have a fixed budget and they will be wrapping up it and really within no time. Okay. And apart from this, now we have done with test driven development. So, and again there is a buzzword called what is behavior. So what exactly a behavior driven development is? Why again we are following the TDD process and we are doing an code efficiency, we are doing a right product, we are doing a right product, and everything is working fine. There are no errors. Everything is perfect. Now why what exactly behavior driven development is? Why do I need to follow this behavior driven development? Do you guys have any answers for this?
Business people can't understand the technicalities, so to understand in the way of business, so they converted the technical document into like the business kind of.
Okay, so for that answer, so this acceptance criteria is written by a business guy, right?
Yes,
So can't this be understood by a business guy? So for business, what is the I mean, what is the intention that he need to look into the code? So business is nothing. Business cares about the behavior of the application, right? He really doesn't care about what kind of code he has written, if I'm not wrong, right?
yes.
So as a PO, if I ask for a sign off demo, you'll be running your code and you'll be just showing it. This is what we have done in this text box. I can enter numbers in this text box. I can enter password. So you're not able to you're not seeing it. I'm masking them with the dots. So that is the behavior of that applications and stuff. So I really don't mind about what piece of code you have written. Then why we need this behavior driven? So for development process, so when we talk about the development process, what is the main role for it? Okay.
There should not be any communication gap between the developers and the business people.
Okay, that is one good thing. Okay, so when you say communication gap, what communication gap you can find out between development and other business guys?
Like the business people will be having will be explaining in one manner, but the developer might understand it in the other way, and the
Uh-huh.
tester might proceed in the other way.
Okay, good. Okay, uh, very good. And okay, let me quickly show you traditional. Yeah, how many of you guys know about this image? This is a traditional. This is a traditional image to define, the process of real client and this thing of following development process and the last end product. So this is a traditional image. I think you can find it anywhere in the Google search. See, this is, I mean, how communication gaps. As I really don't know your name. As one of the folks said, communication gap shouldn't happen between these two guys. So this is the thing. When we have multiple persons and when they carry this communication from person to person, at last the statement which developers receives can't be the statement, can't match the exact statement which the product owner has delivered. So in order to avoid these things, okay, what this behavior driven development conveys. Yes. So in Agile, you people know that every member is a stakeholder. Everybody has a piece of cake in terms of success or failure for the product. So when they have this meetings like earlier discussed, sprint planning and story grooming sessions, PO is the main person who will be dealing in terms of explaining the story in terms of functional. See, explaining the story in terms of functional perspective is a different way, and the behavior perspective is a different way. So development deals with the only functional part of it, but business deals with the behavior part of it. I'll explain you the difference between that with a simple example. Uh, I don't know where I can. Let me see. Um, okay, let me. Uh, I'll show you. Okay, now I got this login bit. See. So when I say functional part of it, I should say this. When I click on login, I should get this login screen. So clicking is a function, and I should be able to log in screen. And when I enter this email, I should be able to enter this email like in alphanumeric keys and XYZ. This is a functional part. But when it comes to the business part, I should be able to see the customer impact of it. So I should be able to see the customer impact of it. So I really don't care about, so continue with Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and GitHub logins. I really don't care about the integration part of these APIs behind the screen, right? So I really care about whether these icons, the business impact. So when somebody is coming to my screen, I see the business impact, whether he is able to see the screens or not. Whether if I click on it, I'm able to see the Facebook integration. I really don't worry about the backend part, but I should be able to see the Facebook login screen. That's the business. That is the behavior of that particular button. This is the behavior of that particular button, right? This is There is a thin line difference, but there is a huge impact of a business and functional part. So I can give one simple example in terms of business and functional impact. So the functional impact, when you say functional development, I should see my logo, tech gig. But business impact is if there is a spelling mistake. Let's say, for example, if I use I as small case I, this is a business impact. This is not behavior of my application, right? And this creates a business impact. So behavior creates this business impact, and functional deals with the functionality of this application. Okay. When product owner defines a story and explains the acceptance criteria to these so-called developers or testers, he will be explaining the business behavior of those process, and the developers need to come up with the functional part of it. What exactly happens underneath the layer of this behavior? Okay. So that is where this behavior driven development exactly arrives from. So based on the behavior of this application, I mean, when I say behavior, there are multiple. Okay, let us take this our online applications. You have Mintra, you have Udemy, you have Flipkart, and you have Coursera, EDX, and XYZ applications. So the behavior of each and every application is different, but the functionality of the elements which they have used in that application is the same. So button should be clicked, and you will be when you have integrated icons like Facebook, Google, or login considerations, the integration part would be fine. But the business impact or the behavior of the application is different. So here, when we have this sprint planning meetings or story grooming sessions, the PO's responsibility is to explain the functionality and the behavior of that requirement that he gonna achieve from that story. Okay. In order to achieve that, what PO will be doing it? PO is a PO or PM will be doing it. He will be writing the acceptance criteria in a Gherkin format. That is nothing but the GWT format, which I have shown you earlier. Okay, I'll explain the first statement. Okay, okay. These are the things. Okay, GWT format, so that each and every statement is treated as a test case for the development and for testing. Okay, and now okay, now the story grooming has been done, everything has been done. Now how the development process can be achieved by using this BDD. Okay, so BDD is an I can say it as a wrapper over TDD process. Okay, why I say a wrapper over TDD processes. So in TDD you will be writing a unit test case. Okay, for each and every unit test case you have a business impact for it that is defined in GWT format. Okay, this test case, I mean when we follow this. Okay, let me put it over here. Okay, this you have written unit test cases, and you have on top of it you have this behavior driven development, right? So on top of it, what you can do is, when we follow this shift left methodology, what we'll be doing is, so on top of it, here I have this integration and end-to-end test cases. So integration test case are nothing but when you have different set of layers, you will when I say cleaner interface, when we talked about cleaner interfaces and all these things, these interfaces are nothing but the mediators which carry information from one class to another class. Okay, so when we talk about integrations, let me explain in this way. So let me if I click on this Facebook, so you will be seeing, a certain integration part that can happen with respect to Facebook, saying that you will call this API. I don't know how far this will be useful, but let me show you guys. I'm really not sure how far this will be useful. Okay, so if I click on it, let me close this. So you can see this. You can see these actions that has been performed, right? So these are APIs that have been called, and these are the status. Okay, so these are the underneath things that I'm using this APIs that I need to test it. What is this? In this integration test. So in order to make sure that you're writing an integration test, you need to test when I call someone, how the other person is reacting. So that is called integration testing. So here when I click on Google, the TechGig application is calling the Google API service, and how does it react? So that kind of testing is done integration testing. So that I will be writing in given when then format. Okay, and then I'll be writing end-to-end test cases where I'll be covering the 100% of automation on top of test-driven development. Now, how can we adopt? So we have defined this, and how can we adopt this? BDD. So that is what. So the first thing what we need to do is we need to write our acceptance criteria in BDD scenarios. And the second thing is, this BDD scenarios should be taken to an extent of test-driven development, where each and every test case, making sure that each and every test case has been as I initially informed you guys, the tester should have that flexibility to devise his test cases into integrate unit tests, integration tests, and the end-to-end test. and making sure that when we integrate the complete unit test case segregations has been covered as part of a development or TDD process. And the third thing is Unity. I mean, in order to do this, there are multiple tools in the market. One of the most prominent tool is Cucumber, which everybody is aware of it. So, which uses an behavior-driven development flavor to your integration and UI test. UI test cases are nothing but end-to-end test cases, which gives you that flavor to read that documentation. I'll show you that real implementation. Okay, this is what it happens. This is what it happens. When we write acceptance criteria, these are the three personas which are really important. As I've been conveying this earlier, they will come up with this test cases. Here they have written, automatable acceptance criteria is nothing but how many okay, I got it. So here, as I told you, right, the tester will be segregating it. He should be able to understand what are the test cases that can be automated, and how many test cases that can be covered as part of unit testing. So for this, one simple example which I can give you is uh, in terms of how a tester can segregate it. So let us say, for example, I have entered an dummy word and I'm doing this. If I click on it, see, please enter a valid email. Right, you have this test case. This is just an example, you really don't need to care about it. So this is a validation error message where this can be covered in uh, unit test case as well as end-to-end test case. Since it is an UI text, you can test it. But what is the effectiveness that if I cover this test case in the unit test case, what is the effectiveness that I cover in UI test case? So a tester should have this understanding, or should have this knowledge. What is the productivity that I am bringing up if I am covering this scenario in unit test case or UI test case? So there are multiple advantages. We can discuss more about it. But these kind of segregation knowledge, when I say segregation knowledge between unit integration and end-to-end, this is one of the simple example which I can put forward. And what is and our ultimate question will be coming boiling up is what exactly Scrum Master is doing over here when tester and developer are fighting with each other. So Scrum Master should monitor this acceptance criteria, whether they have written to this level. When I say to this level, where the tester has a detailed documentation of how many test cases have been done in unit test case, how many test cases have been written in integration test case, how many test cases have been done in end-to-end test cases. Scrum Master should check this, should have a monitor eye on these aspects. There are multiple different tools where you can have it. It depends on to company, but he should have a keen review kind of a thing yeah, including the team leads or the technical leads of the project. Okay, this is how the same statement which I've explained to you over here. Okay, and this is one simple example. This is a legacy example where you can find it, how to draw an ATM cache. And I'll show you. This is just for your information. I'll show you a real-time example how we have implemented it. Okay. So if you observe here, see, this is a simple login screen where I'm giving a detailed documentation of what are the actions that I have done. Right? Clear? Okay.
Clear.
Yeah. So now these are the UI test cases which I've written, and I can show this the same text context to any PO or to any senior manager who is dealing with this product, saying that these are the things which I've covered and these are the scenarios. So this gives me the BDD, the complete documentation, whatever I've done, and what are the test cases that I have covered, and what are the functionality that I have covered as part of unit test cases, right? So this is one simple example. Okay, the same thing I've been trying to explain over here as well. So these are the actions that he will be doing it, and how to withdraw a cache, and then we will write the test cases using some of the Cucumber tools. So this is more of a technical thing. I don't know how far it will be useful for you guys, but I've just given an information how you can use this Cucumber. So you will have a Cucumber plugin where you can see this Cucumber image for each and every feature, and you will be writing test scenarios for it. So scenario is nothing but a test case. As a user, I'll be checking the availability of registration page form. So I need to see the registration form, and I need to create an account, filling up all the fields. These are different test cases. Okay, the same thing I've tried to explain here. So using a tool, you'll get when you have an empty methods, you will be getting this pseudocode, and you will be filling up this code with your elements, and you will get after executing it, you will get a Cucumber report of some of this kind. Let me see if I have any reports to show you. I don't think so. I haven't run that. I don't think so. Okay. Well, you will have the same kind of a report. Okay. And these are some helpful links for this BTD. And I think I am almost done. Yeah, I think I'm done. Do you guys have any questions? If you guys have any questions, you can now. Yeah.
So what is the difference between TDD and ATDD?
See, TTD and acceptance test driven development. Okay, so acceptance test driven development is an upper layer of BDD. So which is like uh, let me put it. Okay, let me give an example on this. So in the same login page, I've given you a login with an login username and this thing, right? Okay. So okay, here. Okay, let me put it this. Okay, I'll try to explain. So TTD here, you will be having involvement of developer and tester. Okay. Here you will not be seeing any kind of business or this thing. Here you will be dealing with the only functionality development of your story, right? So when I say ATDD, I need to accept the functionality of the implementation. Okay. When I say acceptances, here comes when I say acceptance test driven, here comes the customer, developer, and tester. So in this cache drawer example, which I've shown you, so I'm inserting my card, okay, and I should be able to see this multiple options, and I need to, for each and every option there will be an action that you will be defining it. So when I follow TTD, I'll be defining the button actions beneath it, right? So and the customer comes. I don't know who is that. Okay, let me mute it. Okay. Okay. So when I say acceptance, oh, sorry. When I say acceptance is driven, so there is a customer interface where the customer will be using it, right? So how the customer will be using it? It is nothing but it is more of inline aligned with the behavior driven development. But acceptance test driven development is more of customer oriented development, where you will follow the test driven development process in developing that functionality. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is really very simple. When let us say for example, if you are making a handbag, who will be your ultimate? What will be your ultimate goal? You need to sell this handbag. So keeping in that mind, you will be developing or you will be stitching that handbag with multiple colors and multiple designs and all those stuff. And when you put that end product to that customer or on client, he will be re-verifying it with multiple criteria, whether this has that with it, he has his criteria where he will be evaluating it. Based on that, he will accept that product, saying that okay, this is nice and I can accept it. So that's where acceptance test driven development comes into picture.
Hi, sir. This is
Yeah,
Aruna.
yeah.
Uh, this might be a very basic question. Because I have not worked in any agile projects or anything. So just I want to know, see, when it comes as a sprints and all, right? So for first release, we have 3 sprints, and each sprint is having some user stories. Like it might be a small functionality or for small module, right? So if you take a application as a whole, you will be having multiple modules, right? You are talking about the integration and all. How that integration thing will be covered in these story points, like or in product backlog or sprint backlog. So where that scenarios will come into.
Okay, good. So when in the Scrum Master in the PI planning meeting, PI planning is nothing but product insight meeting or sprint planning. So you have one factor called risk and mitigating planning. All right. So let us say for example, now my application should include this payment option. The payment is one of the biggest thing which we daily see it. So I'm taking that example. Okay. So my application should involve this payment, which includes, this is just an example, credit card, debit card, and UPI payments. Okay, this should have this. But what my application is, as you said, it's a simple e-commerce application, and Anna, your project is dealing with only this product detail module.
Okay.
Let us take this. You are dealing with only product detail module, and your project is e-commerce project. Okay. So now this product detail module. So first thing which you need to consider is what are the elements that are, what are the services that are needed for this product detail module that I can develop this product. In the sense I don't know. Okay, let me do this. So for this product to display, you need to have the first factor is pricing. Pricing will be another service. Pricing is one service, and product image is another service, and promotions is another service. Right? These are different services that are needed in order to develop this product detail. Okay. Uh, Clear? Are you following me on this?
Yes, sir. I am following. Background noise
Okay.
is there, so I am just muting it.
Okay, great. So these are the services that are needed to develop this product detail. So based and considering these 3 services as a risk factor, what we will be doing is, while doing this sprint planning meeting, we will consider this integration stories as a mitigating plan of actions. So when it comes into risk, when it falls into this risk bucket, these stories are dealt at the end of our development. Means that, let us say for example, I'll give a simple example. Mentor.com. I'm just giving an example. So I'm taking men's t-shirt. So when I say integration, from here you will be navigating to this product detail page. So you need to have all these informations, right? So this information, this pricing comes from another service. This text comes from this text, and this size comes from different services. But this layout, when I talk about layout can be done as part of your development, right? So at the initial phase, you will be covering this layout part, how my product page should look like. So it should have an header with all the header text, and it should have this profile and wish list and bag images, and at the end it should have this, the customer reviews. It should have the suggestions and all those etc factors. When I say outline, you should consider the wireframe of it. Wireframe in the sense where exactly the product should define, where exactly sizes should define, how should be the button size, and how should be the wish list size, and all those things. This layout will be defined, and then the integration part will be considered. Keeping that risk factor in mind, we will convey to the product owner saying that we will do this development using mock data. Mock data in the sense nowadays we have this Swagger API development, which gives a real flavor of your real API. For example, I'll tell you Swagger UI. I'll show you. Okay. Okay. So if this is a service, and you will have a detailed description of this service, how the developer is gonna develop, and what are the see how the body should be defined, and how the responses and everything. So we will develop the story in such a way saying that based on this Swagger, I will develop a pseudo service for my application, and I'll be developing it. Okay. And once the service is ready, from these where is this from these three services, I will try to integrate it, and I'll be doing integration testing. Meanwhile, I'll be including the Swagger UI as my end integration API, and I'll be integrating with my development. And then and that bucket lies in the risk and mitigating plan, and you will need to calculate as a Scrum Master. You need to consider that risk factor, and you need to give those story points to that particular stories. Okay. Is it clear?
Got it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the simple factor is you're considering your duplicate as your end API, and you are doing the initial development so that your integration development is not blocked by by the API service. So I mean, in this Swagger, whatever the Swagger which I've shown you, this Swagger, if it is a minimum service which satisfy your need for your development. There might be changes to this Swagger, but you can do something rather than sitting idle with respect to the API service development stories. By using this Swagger, you can start your development stories for the API integration, and you can make progress. But as a Scrum Master, you need to consider this as a risk factor, and you need to make a label of it saying that this has additional development process that will be included when the real API services is ready. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other
And
question?
even sir, test, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
even testers will be testing as and when the sprint is done.
Hmm.
Testing will be completed. So, in traditional way, like we will be having end-to-end test. I mean, once everything is done, like how the entire system is working. So, in what phase we will be doing in Agile, like end-to-end?
Okay. So
Because as soon as one release is done, we will be demoing to the customer and all, right? So, when we give the final demo, like entire application is working as expected.
okay. Yeah. For this is the same. I mean, this is a problem for each and every customer. When we follow Agile, and when we have this MVP release, how we are making sure that our product is. See, for this, which my solution would be, I'll be giving the solution to every Scrum Master whom I work with. So if let us say for example, sprint 7 is your last sprint, and after sprint 7 you will be releasing your MVP product. So what I'll suggest to the Scrum Master is, I'll ask the Scrum Master to create 2 stories where I can where as a tester I can cover the complete end-to-end integration and code coverage and all the metrics for that particular story. So when I ask for 2 stories, one story will be for complete integration for the complete all the sprint, and one story will be with respect to my in-sprint automation, enhancing my automation and all these things. Because after doing manual testing and the last 2 days, I'll be doing the regression part with my automation suite and making sure that 90% of my testing is done and I can rely on my testing part. So this is what I suggest to Scrum Masters. So when you have that last sprint coming up, I'll be making sure that those 2 stories are there in that particular sprint, and I'll be making sure that that product which we are releasing it is an effective product. Okay. And when we hand over it to an end-to-end testing or to the client, there definitely you will have certain bugs that are coming up, but those bugs will be a minimal effective bugs, which are not that critical as such, which we have done in our which we have done in sprint. Okay. And thanks guys, and thanks for your valuable time, and have a nice day and have a nice weekend.
Thanks for watching. For more videos, subscribe our channel and click on bell icon.